In fact, joining me on the broadcast is Mr. Anuj Puri, who's the chairman of Anarock Properties. Mr. Puri, thank you so much for joining me right here on Mirror Live. Now, I wanted to understand this. This was a surprise announcement by the RBI, and this increase in repo rate has happened for the first time since 2020. What do you make of this announcement?
So it is true. It was very unexpected. This increase of repo rate of 40 basis points, whilst maintaining accommodative stance, and that is what the RBI governor has said. It's quite understandable as well, given where the oil prices have surged and, the aftermath of Russia, Ukraine, in terms of the overall inflation. But I think, the thought was that let's not allow the inflation to go above the target zone of 6%. And, since that is starting to breach, there is certainly going to be an increase which has been offset by the RBI of 40 basis points will have an impact, as you rightly said, on the EMIs of the home buyers. So this will hike the EMI, yes. And soon it'll end the all-time best low interest rate regime that we've had. One of the major factors giving home sales across the country boost since the pandemic. Does it have a huge impact on the home sales? I'm not so sure. I think it was pretty much expected by many of the buyers that there is going to be both due to the inflation increase in the sale price of the finished residential inventory and increase in the financing cost. So I do think is that it will well be taken into the account, given that for a very long time, the salaries have continued to go up, but the housing prices and the finance price hasn't really gone up, and hence the affordability factor for the home buyer has increased. So whilst this is negative, but I don't think it is going to in any severely impact the demand that we have seen improve since the start of the pandemic.
Okay, Mr. Puri, I sense that word of optimism in your dialogue as well. Like Mr. Shaktikanta Das also mentioned that he being an eternal optimist, so he is trying to take it as it comes. When you say that the consumer confidence is not going to be severely impacted now that people have, begun to invest more in properties coming out of the pandemic also, don't you think this particular inflation is really hitting our country hard, and that's why this off-cycle sort of announcement was made by Mr. Shaktikanta Das? So that is going to be one key question that even the home buyers will, go ahead and end up asking themselves.
You're absolutely right. Both the points that you mentioned are absolutely correct. I think it is with the inflation edging higher, due to various reasons, as I said, either it is Russia, Ukraine, or surging oil prices. It was pretty unexpected from the RBI to increase the repo rate by 40 basis points. But I do feel is that, RBI is also constrained because on one hand, the inflation is going, above the 6%, which is the benchmark I think that they had kept for themselves. And the only way to be able to rein down that would have been by tightening the liquidity. And one of the reasons of, increasing the repo rate is to bring down the liquidity and hence temper the inflation going forward.
All right. Mr. Puri, thank you so much for joining me on the broadcast and taking us through what you feel about this repo rate hike by the RBI.